The the webinar is brought to you by this Happy to Help group. Om has just quickly run you through the website. I encourage you to have a look. There are multitudes of topics there. So if you find something interesting, you can get in touch with the advertise and you want to contribute some free time, feel free to register yourself as a mentor. It is completely not for profit. There is no money involved. All of the people who are doing this are doing it completely free of cost, and there is no monetization now or in the future involved. So it's just a platform to get people together and share information, right? So I will not take too much time. Vinod will be taking the webinar today. It is on HTTPS and web security, and he has said that he's going to make it as simple as possible. That I should also be able to understand it, is what he said. I will take slight amount of offense to that. Yeah. So and Vinod has. I have known Vinod for over 8 years. He's extremely hands-on and extremely one of the most helpful architects I have seen around. Yeah, he's with Deutsche right now, and Mastercard right now, and yeah, I am hoping it's going to be a great session. So over to you, Vinod.
Hey, thanks for your quick introduction. So, without further ado, let's get started with the session. Although session title is given as HTTPS and web security, and my focus was earlier, I was thinking of focusing more on the HTTPS, how it works. But later on, I thought why not to give more insights on the web security? Although web security is very deep topic, and we cannot cover all the aspects of it, but we'll try to touch upon few of them which are the commonly known or the popular ones, so that at least everyone can get to know about it. And HTTPS, yes, we will also touch that also, but we will see if we are able to understand to the level, then we will get into more details. If we want to restrict to that, okay, this is the level that we want to understand, this is sufficient for us to understand, then we'll stop there. Okay. So the focus is going to be web security, which includes the HTTPS part. Okay. So about me, Atul, you can go to the next slide. Atul,
Vinod, I am on the next slide. Are you able to see the screen?
no, I am not. Let me share my screen at least from laptop. Voice was not going through, but if at least I'm able to share it, let me just see if I can share it.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. Guys, usually this is not this complicated. We do a better job of it. So
yeah. Because of network issues, I had to move from one PC to other PC. And
ironically, you're taking a session on network security.
Yeah.
So,
let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Your video got enabled. Screen is not there.
Oh no, I'll leave it. I'll leave it. I think Atul, you'll have to help me out with this. I think Mastercard has put some more security around this, due to which I'm not able to. This is getting cached.
right. I will share my screen. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes. And just put it in our full screen mode.
Yeah, Atul, we are able to see if you can make it full screen.
Yeah, I have moved it to full screen. The only issue is I think some people are joining, so I have to let them in. So, but anyway, I think we should get started and we'll see how it goes.
Fine. So this is all about me. Like I don't want to talk about a number of years and all that. This is what you can see on the screen, like all the technologies. So I love technology, and I would like to share my knowledge with everyone. I've been doing that for past lot of years, and I'll continue doing that. Now I think it's for free now. Earlier it was somewhat paid in offices, and sharing with colleagues was a part of professional job. So Atul, we can move to the next slide. I don't think so. We should have any questions on this slide. So
Yeah, I am on the agenda screen, Vinod.
okay.
So Atul, I think there is some lag. Can you share this with me, the presentation? So I'll be sharing and then maybe Vinod can talk. I'm sorry guys.
Yeah, now I think agenda has come up. So meanwhile, in background, I think you can do that. So I'll walk everyone through agenda. So here we are going with a top-down approach, like what is the web security, what types of cyber attacks are usually popular or the common ones. Then we will focus on man-in-middle attacks, because that is something that most of you might have not heard in detail. So we will go into detail of that. Rest of things you might have heard some or other place. So we'll get into this only. Then how HTTPS works, of course, and last one is one-way versus two-way SSL. So that's a mutual SSL we talk about. This is all about is the agenda of today's session. We can move to the next slide. So, well, I know screen there is a delay, but yeah, I think now it's coming up. So, web security, what exactly is the web security is all about? So, whenever we are talking about any of the application, whether it's a banking application or any other application which is exposed over internet, we need to be careful or cautious about that application, or whether somebody is doing any attack on it, to whether it's cyber attack, whether it's a breach or security threat, or you might have heard a lot of things like somebody is stealing the private people's private data, PCI data, PII data. So a lot of things are there around this. So all of you have heard of this, but why it happens is because lack of knowledge or information, or lack of focus on that. I would say, for example, we use servers which are very costlier ones, and although we have that servers, but we don't configure that things like, for example, we will look at the attacks and all, but somebody is hitting my server continuously. So that attack can be easily tracked and managed at the secure server level itself, which are very highly professional servers where we can stop this stuff, but we don't just do that configuration and we miss on that. Okay. Let's move to the next slide. Here we'll try to understand what types of attacks are there in general. You might have heard of malwares. So whenever we are installing something, it says that, okay, along with this, I'll install this also, or you click on this link to get some free bonus, free session, and you end up clicking on it, and then some malware gets installed on your, either on the browser or on your computer, and that is doing some some things to your computer, whether it will hack your computer, whether it will take some data from it, and then it will make use of it. We'll go in detail of it in a subsequent slides, what exactly malwares can do. So phishing attack. Phishing attack, you might have heard again this one. Like you receive emails and somebody says that, okay, click on this link to log in and change your password. And that link is actually not an actually authentic bank site or some other site, but it is something, fake site where you're trying to change your password. So automatically you're passing on the actual credentials to the wrong website. So that kind of things happen here. Or people take you exchange passwords over social media, and then people take that information from you. Third one is the man-in-middle attack. This we will get into detail of great detail man-in-middle attack. So this is like you are talking to a server, and you know that, okay, you are talking to a server which is authentic one. You're receiving some information. For example, you log into State Bank of India site and you're doing login, password, some transactions. You feel that, okay, you're dealing with State Bank of India application or website, but actually, in fact, you're not going. You're not dealing with it. Somebody is intercepting whatever communication happening between you and server. So that is something like a man-in-middle attack. So that happens usually whenever you're talking to some website over internet. So you can see here arrows are shown here, which are actually going from one server to other server and to DNS server. From DNS server, it is going to your website and web servers. Next attack type is like DDoS. DDoS, nature of DDoS is like you uh, are going to bombard your server or someone's server with lot of requests. Okay, this usually happens without even like a DDoS on IRCT sites every day in the morning. These days nowadays it is not there because of COVID situation, but otherwise, if you try to log in on IRCT site on the morning, a lot of people are trying to log in at the same time, and then IRCT site used to crash for many times. So that is kind of a DDoS attack, but this is not attack. This is actual in India itself, population is so high that everyone is trying to book tickets. Whereas when malicious attacker or hacker is trying to do that, that is he's trying to bring down the hamper the reputation of that site. For example, if I'm hitting Google or Facebook or some other site, and that site goes down for 2 days or even for 2 hours, then it's a very big thing for that site or that company. So from that angle, this DDoS attacks are done usually. But there are many other reasons also to do this. Next one is cross-site scripting. Here you are looking at a website. Within that website, somebody is actually executing some scripts in the background, due to which things will work differently. You are trying to say, like, let's say you are typing 500, but actually it is getting sent to the server. That time it 500 is getting converted to 5,000. So that kind of things can happen through cross-site scripting. There is a lot of scope to do malicious things in cross-site scripting, but there are browsers are now capable enough to understand what kind of cross scripting can happen and how to protect from those cross-site scripting attacks. Last one, the popular one is like SQL injection, where you are trying to enter things through a command form fields, where you're saying that, okay, I want to search for a account you're given a screen where you're saying account number so and so, you want to search this so and so, and then you say or true is equal to true. So condition becomes like show me account where account number is equal to XYZ, or true is equal to true. So that true is equal to true is always true. So it will return all the data. That kind of SQL injection happens. So these are the popular cyber attacks that usually happen. This is just basic things that we're talking about. There are a lot of other ways of doing the attacks, but I just wanted to give a heads up on this. Next one is man in the middle. Before we move on, Atul, is there any question on that slide? Because we may not go back to that slide again.
We can either type in the questions or you can unmute yourself and ask if somebody has a question.
Okay. So anyways, you can think of the questions and type in later, and we can address at the end of the Q&A. But if there are any questions, then don't wait for me to ask for a question. Whenever you have a question, please feel free to stop me and ask questions. Now we are getting into detail of man in middle attack. So what is it happening? So somebody is talking to someone else, and without both the parties' knowledge, somebody else is sniffing or looking at or hearing what exactly is the conversation happening. So this day in Rajasthan this is happening in political parties. But yeah, this is on the tape phones we are talking about. But when we are talking about cybersecurity, this is usually we are talking about parties talking to each other over internet. So, for example, one site is talking to, for example, you're a party and you are talking to some bank, some ICICI bank or some bank or some financial organization. So that is a threat to. Threat, like if you're getting the information leaked or due to some reason somebody is sneezing and somebody is trying to interpret what exactly you're talking and then making use of it to steal the data or act as if you're that person, that becomes a problem. So we'll get into more details what kind of man-in-middle attack happens. So here you can see DNS spoofing. These are the 8 types of attacks. These are the common ones again. This is not the end of story. There could be many more, but here we are talking about the more popular one, as I said earlier. So DNS spoofing. What does it mean? When you type www.google.com, then somebody is there, some server is there that is called as domain naming server. So that DNS server will actually return you the IP address of that server. When you are doing that, for example, if I'm using my BSNL network or Geo network, so when I'm hitting some application, then actually it's a request goes via my ISP to this IP addresses. So DNS servers, we have it usually. ISP providers provide the DNS server. So if I am using BSNL, so BSNL will provide me a DNS server. So when I'm typing google.com, then that will return me the IP address, and we will be able to serve to that request. But instead of that, somebody is there who is acting as if I'm a DNS server, who knows that okay, now you're making a request for google.com, so or sbi.com. So instead of saying sbi.com, so it will return the wrong IP address of that sbi.com. So ultimately, you are actually getting redirected to the wrong server, and with the help of doing that, it can do a lot of things like stealing the data, as we said earlier, or doing any financial losses. The next one is IP spoofing. So, in order to make our servers secure or protected, what we usually do is on server side, for example, if Yahoo is talking to Google, then Yahoo will say that okay, now all the IP addresses of Google are in this range. These are the public IP addresses we are talking about. So I'm allowing only those IP addresses to talk to my server. But attacker will do is attacker knows okay, these are the IP addresses, so he will somehow get into that range of IP addresses, and he will present himself as a legitimate customer or a party. So next person or the next server will think, okay, now this is the same person that I have a trust with, and then he will allow access to the secret resources or data, which is a problematic thing. Then we have Wi-Fi, malicious Wi-Fi network. So we usually have at our home, we have our own Wi-Fi network. But if we are moving around, we move to some place and where we see, okay, there is a public Wi-Fi, there is a free Wi-Fi. So we get attracted to connect to that Wi-Fi server and then do our activities. So at that time, we need to always remember whenever we are connected to any private or unknown private network, so that time we should never do any kind of financial transaction, because somebody is looking into our looking at all the complete traffic which is happening from customer to or client to server. So they can actually, that attacker can actually see complete traffic. What is the username going? What is the password going? Okay. So in order to avoid that, what we do is really HTTPS encoding. So we'll get into the detail of HTTPS in a future slide. But what attackers have done is, since breaking HTTPS security is very difficult, so what they have done is, rather than working around with that, what they do is they buy a similar domain. For example, instead of if you are familiar with State Bank domain like online.sbi.com, so instead of online, E is missing ONLAN.sbi.com. So you will not notice that okay, this is the there is a typo mistake or there is a spelling different for the SBI side. So you will directly try to get into it just by looking at the lock sign which appears on the left hand side of the corner, okay, which says that whether site is secured or not secured. So you might have already seen, I should have given the demo of that, but unfortunately I'm not able to do that. But whenever you open a site, you see your lock on the left hand, the top left corner. So that is a HTTPS. It signifies that HTTPS, and we usually look at only that HTTPS once we ensure that okay, this is HTTPS and secure communication is happening. we don't really bother to look at the domain name. Okay. Then next one is SSL hijacking or stripping of SSL. So you are making a request to go for a SSL HTTPS site which is secure, but somebody is redirecting you to the HTTP communication. There are a lot of sites which supports HTTP as well as HTTPS communication. So you end up moving to HTTP communication, and then whenever you're making communication over HTTP, anyone can see, the attacker can basically see the communication which is happening over HTTP, which is not encrypted. So this is when we say SSL, it's a secured socket layer, or in these days we don't call it SSL, we call it as a TLS. That's a transport level security. Whenever data is being sent from customer or client to server, or from one server to other server, that data is encrypted using secured socket layer. Okay. So here we are saying that, okay, just remove that HTTPS, that S part. So there is no more security, no more encryption, decryption will happen, and all the communication will happen in clear text. So attacker can easily see all the data which is going back and forth from server to customer. Next one is email hijacking. This is a most common one that you might have heard of, like phishing attacks and social engineering scams that recently also happened in US. Somebody hacked Twitter, and then he was asking for money into one account, transfer Bitcoin bitcoins to this so account. So this kind of attacks happen. So email attacks, whenever email attacks happen, or how to protect ourselves from email attacks is you need to always look at the from email, whatever email address is coming. So whether it's a proper email from email address is there. If it's the authentic one, then only you go ahead and read the email. And while clicking on any of the links, always think of, okay, what kind of links you are clicking, and do you have admin rights? Always try to log in using a different user, so that even if you click on something before things getting installed on your machine, there would be some level of checkpoint where somebody will say, okay, enter this password to insert this, install this software, things like that. So, but this will save you from only Trojan Trojan horse software installation and all. But if it's just a plugin and all, then it is very difficult. Next one is session hijacking. Session hijacking is like how those who are from web development or developers would really able to understand this very easily, because whenever we are saying we need to manage our session for a portal, it is managed using 4 ways. One is your cookies. That's the most popular one. There are other ones that is hidden form field, session tracking, URL rewriting and all. But we, for 99% of the site, you will see it is using cookies. So these cookies are most vulnerable. Like if these cookies travel from client to server every time. So if there is any attacker who wants to look at those cookies, and then if he sneaks through those cookies, gets a hold of those cookies, then it is very easy for that attacker to act as if he is a genuine customer. So for example, you have opened a session with some bank site, and now you have logged in. After logged in, how server will come to know about that you are authenticated user based on the cookies. So that cookies, if somebody copies that cookies and moves to some other place, and then from there, if he makes a request, then bank site or bank server will think as if he's the same person, and then he will be able to easily get into that session and do whatever he wants to do. So that is stealing a cookie. Usually it is done using malwares, that we click on some links, okay, click on this link, add search box or something like that, which, or some extensions on Chrome that works as a malware, and then or cross-site scripting. For cross-site scripting also is Chrome or Firefox IE plugins. If it is something which is not authentic, then they can put some scripts which will run on your browser side, and then it will hijack all the information that you're entering on your website browser. Last one is on the man in the browser, Trojan horse. So this is like a you have your application, you have installed some malicious software or a Trojan horse software, and that has a complete control over whatever data you're sending it to the server. So what it will do is even before this time it is not required to even understand how whether what kind of encryption you're applying and all. It is not required to understand anything because even before this data is sent to a site and all, it will be able to application is handling that Chrome application. I mean to say here, so it will be able to get that data very easily. So there is an example given on this last topic. I think we can move to the next slide, which talks about man in the browser attack. So here you can see very easily that your user is there. User is clicking on malware or download some link, and then he is installing that malware on the workstation. So that he is opening some browser, and from browser, and whenever he does any kind of communication, hacker is there who is actually looking at communication which is happening through Chrome browser or any other browser. So hacker will have a complete control. Okay, now if you're, let's say, in this case, you are saying, I want to transfer 1,000 rupees. Then hacker will take the control of that data information. Okay, you are saying that transfer money to my XYZ account. And hacker will say that, okay, transfer instead of 1,000, transfer 10,000 to my account, hacker's account, or some different account, and that data will be sent to the server. And then if you're not overlooking that message or you have not looked at it really carefully, this is an SMS you receive OTP, and in the OTP amount and everything is amount is usually mentioned, but if you have ignored it or hacker has not changed the amount, just account number, target account number is modified. In all those cases, you will tend to approve that amount, and then amount will go into someone else's account. This is a way attacker can easily do all the things without even understanding your encryption algorithm or a certificate, or all the security mechanism. It's not required to even understand it. Okay, now we are moving to SSL.
So,
What is
Vinod,
SSL? How it works? Before that, let's take questions if there are any.
yeah, Vinod, sorry to interrupt. So I had a question on previous slide. Uh, Atul, can you move back to the previous slide? Yeah. So are we saying like, let's say if I'm doing an online transaction, then what should I be looking? So nowadays we use our mobile to do a lot of mobile transaction. So how we can ensure that we are doing a secure transaction? I mean, because we are using native app. In that case, should we look for any certain aspect, or if we are doing through browser, then what we should check for?
Yeah, from a prevention perspective, there are a lot of things that we can do. There are, for each and every step, it is different. For in this case, we are saying we are doing it through browser. Through browser, it is quite easy to look at certificates which are there, which site you are looking at. But if you are saying you're doing it through native app on the which is authentic application, which is you're installing it on the browser, then it is very unlikely that somebody is taking a control of it unless you install some malware on your this mobile phone itself. If you have a malware on your mobile phone, what will happen is, irrespective of how much security you put on the application,
Mm-hmm.
that malware is sitting within your OS, and then you have given the complete permissions. Okay, you can do look at my SMSs, you can do this, you can do that. So you're giving a lot of permissions, blanket permissions, without even understanding why are we using this malware. For example, if you're using a malware or not malware, but if you're saying that I want to install one application to send birthday wishes, just I want to change the photo of the person and put it on the cake, or put some nice message and then send it across. For that, you will need only access to the images. You will not need access to the SMSs. You will not need access to rest of things. Admin or start on startup. It is this application is not required to start. So these things we need to look at while installing the applications on mobile or whenever things happen like this, so we need to be extra careful. Okay, now something went wrong with this, so let's take a caution and look at what permissions we have given, what applications we have installed. So all these things we need to relook at.
Yeah, like usually I've heard people say that use incognito mode. So is that helpful? That if I go into incognito mode, then I mean, what I know is that it just help us to clear the cookies and it won't stop.
Absolutely,
So I
absolutely
don't
correct.
think it has to do with anything with the security aspect. It has just to do with the cache part, right?
Correct, correct. It is just to do with the cache part. For example, now if you say, can you go back to the slide? I'm not too sure if everyone is able to see. There was one point like HTTPS snooping. Go to the earlier slide, HTTPS snooping. So now what we are saying is somebody is changing your domain or your SSL hijacking.
Hmm.
Okay. So SSL hijacking, when we say somebody is, although you are requesting for HTTPS, communications have come happening through HTTP only because that site supports HTTP as well as HTTPS.
Okay, okay.
So in that case, there are plugins like HTTPS only something like that. So that if you put that extension of within Chrome browser, then nothing will go wrong. Every time it will always connect to HTTPS site only. But the attackers are very smart enough to go to the previous point that they will create their own application at
Go-
which they use, not only I give a very simple example where
Mhm.
we are saying, okay, instead of online, online they will remove just all, they will remove, or they will remove forward something, so that you will not be able to note it. But not only that, but they are using some, Unicodes, using Unicode, they reserve some domain names that it will look like apple.com, for example.
Hmm, hmm.
Okay. I can share that links later, but apple.com is there, which will look like, okay, now this is Apple's website,
Mhm.
but it's not actually Apple's website. It's some other different website. From the look of it, it looks same, but actually, number of characters to look at it, it's different. It's just using some Unicodes which are looking like apple.com.
Got it. Also, we know usually when we are at public place like airport or railway station,
Uh-huh.
there how safe it is to use the public Wi-Fi, because I mean even if you are using HTTPS in the browser or we have a native app, so how I mean safe it is to use a public Wi-Fi if we are at any public place or
If you're
like what?
using public Wi-Fi,
Mhm.
then you should never do any financial transaction at all.
Okay, okay, okay.
You should never do any financial transaction because whatever you're doing, whatever communication is happening, that is happening through that network, Wi-Fi
Mhm.
network. And now anyone can hack that network and then get into it. But at the end, you have to trust someone. For example, now if you are using a Geo network or a BSNL network or Airtel network, then they are also having access to all these information. For example, as I said, when we are using the access to the first point on the DNS spoofing, if BSNL decides to do DNS spoofing or somebody is within their company, if that person decides to do DNS spoofing for someone, then he can actually do that.
Got it.
But that is the reason the big giants have their own hits or mechanisms to ensure that this never happens.
But there would be some encryption description algorithms, right, Vinod? I mean, even if I'm using a public Wi-Fi, then I mean, just wanted to understand that part, how they can decode encrypted script.
Yes, yes. So if we try to, if we can go to the next slide now on the HTTPS, how HTTPS works, I'll explain you that part. Probably after that, it will become very easy for everyone to understand how it can happen.
Sure.
So, Vinod, before we go there, there is one more question from Ravindra. He's asking if there is any specific browser recommendation in terms of which is maybe more secure or.
No, I think I know machine learning is there, machines are learning, but still we need to be intelligent and we need to be cognizant of all the facts. And for example, as I said, DNS spoofing, so that can happen. So instead of going to typing online.sj.com, you can go to some Google it and then click on that link, or IP spoofing happens. So there are few things that we cannot actually protect ourselves from, where we have to say that, okay, now these things are there. We have to rely on servers to protect itself. For example, Facebook data got hacked. or Twitter data got hacked. So now there is no one, it's not individuals' responsibility that they can't do anything much on that. It is Twitter or Facebook. They have not put security constraints, or hackers are more talented than the security folks out there in that organization.
Would a question from my end? Would using a VPN on your client help? Like
Yes, VPN baseline connections really help. So if you look at the earlier days when we used to communicate from one server to other server, we used to ensure that okay, we will use baseline connections or VPN connections. For example, even in Mastercard, whenever we are doing transactions over ISO messages and all, that time we use dedicated baseline connections with banks and financial institutions so that it is much more secure.